Okay, so where was I at? Okay, so basically, he says, "Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one. That is." Now, that word there's God. Now, that word there shouldn't be God. That word should be Elohim. It shouldn't be Yahuwah. It should be Elohim. What's the difference between Elohim and Yahuwah? Nothing. But you have to understand something. Even though Elohim and Yahuwah are the same thing, Yahuwah represents the Godhead in oneness, but under an individual concept. Elohim represents the Godhead in oneness under a triune nature. All right. So I don't want to give you all headaches about that right now. Okay? Let me keep reading. All right? Thou knowest then, so Christ says, listen, don't call me good, okay? Call Elohim good, right? And then, so he's answering, now he's going to answer the young fellow's question. So the young man wanted to know how could he get into heaven? So Christ is going to tell him. He said, well, listen, man, you know the commandments, right? Do not commit adultery, do not kill, do not steal, do not bear false witness, do not bear false witness, defraud not, honor thy mother and father. And the young boy answered to him and he said, Master, all this I've been, so in other words, he said, listen, man, Christ, I've been following the commandments. Man, I don't know what you're talking about. I've been following the commandments since I was a young boy. That's nothing to me. Young boy told Christ, I've been following the commandments since I was a young boy. Don't try to throw that at me, Christ. Then Yahusha, beholding him, loved him and said to him. So Christ knew he was telling the truth. The young boy had been following the commandments since his youth. But this is what I want you all to pay attention to. For all of you in the circumcision. Because some of you follow the commandments better than others. And many of you are still missing something very crucial. In fact, you're missing the greatest commandment. Thou shalt love Elohim with all thy might, all thy soul, and all thy heart, and all thy mind. So Christ is going to say, listen, young boy, I'm paraphrasing, young boy, I got love for you, right? But there's something critical that you're missing. One thing thou lackest, one thing that you lack. Go thy way, sell whatever thou hast, and give to the poor. And thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come, take up your stake, and follow me. Now, see, there's many of you that used to idolize the Old Testament, and many of you still today. Why? Because many of you don't want to admit that you're in a blood covenant. Many of you false teachers and you false prophets, you try to bring people back to the sacrifice of animals, to the sacrificial laws of Moses. Moses is your hope, and there is no hope in Moses. You are in the blood covenant. Every Negro woman and every Negro man every last one of the 12, every last individual of the 12 tribes of Israel is in a blood covenant. And the only way out is sacrifice. That's it. That's it. That's it. There's no other way. Well, if I follow the commandments, did you just hear this? Young boy was a more so likely a better commandment keeper than all of you today. Maybe not all of you, but not too many of you are keeping the commandments like the young boy right here. Because Christ beheld him. In other words, he looked into his mind and was like, damn, yeah, young boy, he got the mark on his forehead. He's that boy. He follows my commandments. But there's something that you're missing. Now, when he said take your stuff and sell it, he doesn't mean take all your, for you rich people. Never are you to take everything that you have. That's foolishness. You got to leave yourself with something, self-preservation, right? Only a fool would sell everything. Keep a car, keep a house, right? But listen to what he's saying. See, why is he saying this? Because all of those possessions are going to hold a lot of you cats, a lot of you 100,000aires, low millionaires, middle millionaires. It's going to hold a lot of you back from the kingdom. See, he said, okay, you've been following the commandments, but you're missing. So even though he was following the commandments, he was still missing something. What was he missing? Go and sell. So in other words, you have a lot now. Why did he tell the young boy to go and sell his stuff? Why? Because he wouldn't tell me to sell what I had. Maybe he wouldn't tell me because I don't have anything, right? Why did he tell the young boy to sell his stuff? This is why. And the young boy was sad at the saying and went away grieved because he had a lot of possessions. See that? Here you go, you got a young boy that's righteous, following the commandments since he was a young boy. And Christ, after Christ told him that, he said he was sad at the saying and walked away grieved. So he was grieved in his heart. Why? Because he had a lot of possessions. So young boy was sad at heart because he didn't want to give up a lot of the stuff that he owned. It's funny because Christ also said, listen, you got to take up your stake and follow me. In other words, you got to be prepared to go through the persecution that I went through. Real funny how the young boy, he didn't even think about that, right? But he thought about his possessions. How ironic. That's how many of you are today. Y'all hold on to y'all SHIT like Mr. Krabs. Many of you would die for your possessions. You will. You die for your Bugatti. You die for your little 100 million. You die for your little Dior belt. You die for your house. You die for your little Mercedes Benz. You die for your little whatever you got going on that you think is so glamorous, that you always flossing and saucing all across the social media. So this is why and then Yahusha looked around about and saith unto his disciples, how hardly shall they that have riches enter into the kingdom of Elohim. See how rarely, so damn, that's crazy. Young boy honored thy mother and thy father, did not commit adultery. He wasn't talking shit about people. He worshiped Elohim. He called him by his real name. He walked up to Christ and said, Master. He believed that Christ was who he said he was. He knew that he was the prophecy of the Old Testament. Young boy had it intact. He followed but he lacked the ability to pick up his stake and leave this world behind. He wasn't ready. So that's how narrow the gate is. The gate is narrow, man. It's so narrow, man, that it don't even make any sense. Now, let's go to the first book of Adam and Eve. Go to the first book of Adam and Eve. And I got a scripture for y'all. Hold up, I gotta find the scripture. Okay. Who is Christ, y'all? Okay. I want y'all to listen very carefully. Let's go to the first book of Adam and Eve. The first book of Adam and Eve. This is a lost scroll, okay? The first book of Adam and Eve. And this is a lost scroll, right? I want you all to pay attention. This is chapter, okay, X is 10, I is 1, 5 is, V is 5. So they got it in Roman numerals. So what's that? If the I is before the V, that makes it a 4, right? So this is the first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 14. The first book. Let me make sure it's chapter 14. Yes, because that's X and 3I. So it's 13. So this is chapter 14. Okay. The first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 14. Anybody can find it. You can just simply go online and it's available. so what happened? Adam and Eve, they fell from the garden. Okay? They fell from heaven. Now, not the literal Shamayim. The Garden of Eden is somewhere on this planet. Okay? No one knows where it's at necessarily. But, well, Satan knows where it's at. Okay? So this is what Elohim is going to say to Adam. But Elohim the Master said to Adam, verily I say unto thee, this darkness will pass from thee. Every day I have determined for thee until the fulfillment of my covenant, when I will save thee and bring thee back again into the garden, into the abode of light thou longest for, wherein is no darkness. I will bring thee to it in the kingdom of heaven. So Christ is here giving Adam a promise. He's saying, listen, I'm going to bring you back into the garden, but you have to undergo punishment. Now, Christ is telling Adam that the day I'm going to bring you back into the garden, or more so back into paradise, is going to be 5,500 years from now. You're not going to live that long. You're going to live about 900 some odd years. So I don't know how many years Adam has left at this point, because Adam lived to be almost a stack, right? So Adam would have to wait about 4,500 years before Christ would bring him back into paradise. Now, for many of you who don't believe in this book, who don't believe in the scroll of Adam and Eve, there's another lost scroll. There's another lost scroll called the Gospel of Nicodemus that doesn't have anything to do with this scroll. This scroll was apparently written a long time ago, probably by Moses. The Gospel of Nicodemus was written by Nicodemus, who was somebody that existed during the time of the New Testament. So this is Old Testament, and the Gospel of Nicodemus is New Testament. In the Gospel of Nicodemus, it explains what happened to Christ when Christ went into the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. Christ told you in the Bible that he was going to go into the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. When Christ was sacrificed and was killed on the stake, that's where he went. Into the Gospel of Nicodemus is a wonderful, wonderful scroll for many of you to read. Many of you in the circumcision, you already know about this scroll. But if many of you who are non-believers, or you're novice, or you're not, or you're just somebody who want to read an excellent story, and you can discern spiritual things somewhat, you want to read a really good story, go to the Gospel of Nicodemus, where Christ went into the heart of the earth, and he took all the servants that were dead or that were in Hades, and he took them to paradise. And Adam was one of them. And this was after 5,500 years, as Christ is explaining here in the scrolls of Adam and Eve, very possibly written by Moses. See, even the lost scrolls go hand in hand. The Gospel of Nicodemus, and then even in the regular Bible, it explains that when Christ came back from the dead, there were a lot of people from the Old Testament that were seen walking through the cities of Judea whereabout, that were once dead. Old Testament prophets such as Isaiah and blah blah and blip blip and blam. Christ, when he came back from the dead, he brought a lot of people back. He brought all the righteous people back with him. Christ was the first person to come back from the death. That's because he's Elohim, and he has to be preeminent in doing everything. So when Christ rose himself back from the dead, that's why he said he came down here to destroy the power of the devil, which was death at the time. Satan held the power of the Satan held the power of death because nobody came back from the grave until Christ came back from the grave. Everybody remained in Sheol, whether it be in torture or darkness or whatever it may be. Okay? So that's just letting you all understand what happened there. So this is the promise that he's talking about. So when Christ went into the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights, he took Adam, he took Isaiah, he took David, he took a lot of the people that were righteous that died, he took them back, he took them with him to perish. Now, he says, but the Lord said to Adam, verily I say to you, this darkness will pass from thee. Every day I have determined for thee, until the fulfillment of my covenant, when I will save thee, when I will save thee. This is Elohim. This is the God that everybody calls the God, the Creator. This is him talking in the Old Testament, because according to you all, wait a minute, the book of Adam and Eve is obviously the Old Testament. He's talking to Adam. It can't be the New Testament. So many of you don't believe that Christ existed in the Old Testament. Okay, then you hold on to that. Christ is not the Old Testament, so good. So I'm glad that you all believe that. So remember, Christ doesn't exist in the Old Testament. So this has to be the Father talking to Adam, right? We all know that it was Adam and Eve. Who were they talking to in the garden? It couldn't have been Christ, because there was no such thing as Christ, according to you all, right? It had to be the Father, right? We're just going to use common sense, right? So this is the Father that's talking to Adam here. Obvious. It can't be Christ, because Christ didn't exist. We didn't. So he's going to say, once I've determined the fulfillment of my covenant, will I save thee and bring thee back again into the garden, into the abode of light thou longest for, wherein is no darkness. I will bring thee to it, in the kingdom of heaven. Again said Elohim unto Adam, all this misery, because Adam was in misery, because he was no longer in the garden. See, the garden was the next best thing to heaven, was the next best thing to the kingdom of heaven, right? All this misery that thou hast been made to take upon thee because of the transgression, because of thy transgression, will not free thee from the hand of Satan, and will not save thee. So Satan is the one who now has control over Adam. Why? Because him and Eve hearkened into the serpent in the garden, which was an incarnate of Satan. Okay? But not Christ, the Father, right? But God said, but I will. In other words, but you can't be released from Satan. Nothing will save you from Satan, but I will. He said, when I come down, now listen, this is the Father talking, right? It's got to be. So the Father is going to say, but I will. When I come down from heaven, and shall become flesh of thy seed, and take upon me the infirmity from which thou sufferest, then the darkness that came upon thee in this cave shall come upon me in the grave, when I am in the flesh of thy seed. And I, who am without years, in other words, he has no beginning and no end, shall be subject to the reckoning of the years, of times, of months, and of days. And I shall be reckoned as one of the sons of men, in order to save thee. I'm going to read that again. Christ is going to say, because now you know it's Christ. He's going to say to Adam, but I will save you. When I shall come down from heaven, and shall become flesh of thy seed, and take upon me the infirmity from which thou sufferest, then the darkness that came upon thee in this cave shall come upon me in the grave. Because remember, he took on the sins of the entire nation of Israel. Christ came down here and bore the sins of all the world of Israel. The only way, if you're of another nation, if you want those sins to be taken away from you, you have to love, trust, and stand by with all your heart, might, and soul. Revelations 1:14 and 15. There's no way around it. And you can't hate his children. You can't hate black folk. You can't hate the children of Israel. Not only do you have to stand by Revelations 1:14 and 15, you got to stand by his people. That's the only way if you're of another nation. Okay? Christ said, when I shall come down from heaven and shall become flesh of your seed, and take upon me the infirmity which thou sufferest, then the darkness that came upon you in this cave shall come upon me in the grave, when I am in the flesh of your seed. And I, who am without years, shall be subject to the reckoning of years. So in case any of you wanted to understand, how is it that he came down here and became an ordinary man, but without a father? He didn't have a biological father. But he said, and I, who am without years, and shall be subject to the reckoning of years, of times, of months, and of days, and I shall be reckoned as one of the sons of men in order to save you. There it is. It don't get no more straightforward than that. For people that's trying to take Isaiah 6:9 and twist it to say this and twist it to say that. Isaiah 6:9 is immovable. John 1:1 is immovable. Deuteronomy 6:4 is immovable. John chapter 10 is immovable. You can't move those scriptures. Christ is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Christ is the creator in the flesh. There's no way around it. No way around it. All right.